Hello, Aunt Virgie.
Go ahead.
Why don't you tell me a story about old man Pap Smith Fultz?
Well, I'll tell you what he told me one time. I've heard him tell it different times. He went somewhere to help a man kill hogs. And coming back home, he said he had a fresh meat on his back, a pack of fresh meat. And he said something in under the road, down in under the edge of the road, that went to cracking brush. And he said he picked up speed and went to walking a little faster. And he said the faster he walked, the faster that thing walked. And finally, he said it jumped up behind him in the road. And he said every time he'd pick his feet up, he'd land right in his tracks. And he said that he let out to running as fast as he could run. And there was a neighbor man who had some dangerous dogs. He said there's big watchdogs. And he said he didn't have much breath, said he'd run till he was about out of breath. But he said he had enough of breath to call them dogs. And there's a cross fence you had to cross over. And as he crossed over that fence, he said them dogs met that thing right in the face. And he said they fit, and he finally got away from them dogs and went to a cliff. And he said a big old cliff. And he said them boys set traps, said they went and set traps, and said they put rocks around every place that they knowed that they thought it could get out. And he said they went for 40-some days every morning to see if they could catch that thing. And got to looking at around that cliff, and he had got out on top. Said there's a crack on top of that cliff that he had got out and got away. And that's all I know of that tale.
And they never did know what kind of critter it was?
He said it was a bobcat.
Yeah.
A bobcat, and Randall seen one not long ago. He said he's about that high, a little one, and said it was a brown, like light brown. I said, why didn't you kill it? He said, no, said I didn't want to kill it. Yeah.
How about Mama Polly? You got a good story on Mama Polly?
I don't know. I don't know nothing except a tale. Me and her old Murph in the snow one time.
Yeah, that's a good story. Tell me that story.
He wasn't much big, and there's big snow on. And I must have been over there in the head of this holler where Farley lives, where they lived at. And we took a notion to go home, and I think it wasn't too big. It was a snowing, but the further we went, the harder it snowed, and one of my shoes almost bottom come off of it, almost off of it. And we went down by Elijah's from the top of the mountain down in Rubens's branch where Elijah lived to get him to nail my shoe back on. People back then had lasties. You know, you put them on lasties and could tack them back on. And after he done that, we went back up on top of the mountain and went back around through there. And we was a-falling. Every few steps we'd fall and roll Henry Murphy in the snow. And Polly had him wrapped up in a bed quilt. A great big bed quilt. And when we got over there, Mama said, well, I guess you have froze this baby to death. And she went to unwrapping him, and here's the warm at the steam went to coming out from around his wrapper. He wasn't wet a bit.
How about Lucy? We don't know much about Lucy.
About who?
About your mom, Lucy. Smith's wife.
Mama never did talk much. She didn't have much to say. Of course, I was the baby one, and she was sick, and I never did hear her tell no tales, no way. But Grandma Tolliver now, Mommy's mother, Ollie was staying with her when she was a young girl, and as after Grandpap died, Grandpap Tolliver, and Grandma always said she'd rode a mare and come to this store up here where Al's store was at, but Chester Nolan run it then. Chester Nolan and Sally. And she was just getting back up in Rose's branch, and she said she heard Grandma holler. Grandma went to the garden and said Grandma was hollering, "Hey, Sophie," she's hollering for Uncle Arthur's wife. Said, "Run here, Sophie, run here, Sophie." And Ollie said she jerked her shoes back on and run to see what she was hollering back. And Sophie went too with a hoe, and there's a big black snake that hung its teeth in her old big skirt. Them old big skirts, you know, they'd wore right down around their ankles and feet. And Grandma couldn't get loose from it. Everywhere she'd go, that snake was a-going. And Sophie tried to kill it with a hoe and said she couldn't kill it with a hoe. She said, "Well, I bet you I will kill it." Said she run back to the house and got the shotgun and killed it. A black rattlesnake.
That's a good one. Mama told me a story once about the gypsies coming through in World War II. Do you know any story like that?
Anyone?
The gypsies. She said they'd have travelers that would migrate through here during World War II, during the big war. And do you know?
Oh, Polly, when Bev and Polly lived right up yonder where them old shacks is at. I don't know where you know where that's at or not, but they was below the road and a little old one above the road. And she'd been to church up to Lola's, and she said she come back from church, and these here old gypsies that can't talk plain, you know, they just jabber. And she said that they had been in her garden and had their arms full of onions and all kinds of their stuff pulled up out of the garden, and said one of them women had got her clothes off of a little line that was right beside of the fireplace or the stove, ever what they had, and had her stockings and a lot of her clothes. And said Bill was standing in the door with his mouth thrown wide open and couldn't say nary a word. Polly said she grabbed her a broom and took in after them, beating them right over the head and shoulders. And she said them things was a jabbering just like geese. And she made them throw her stuff down. She said, "You get out of here." I said, "I'll break your neck."
That's a good one.
And Bev couldn't, they had Bev hypnotized. Said Bev couldn't speak a word. Said he's just standing there letting them take everything they had.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think about how much I miss Mama and her stories, and I wish I could have been. I miss Mama and her stories, and I wish I would have had the opportunity to